Once our ancestors traded in shells and gold, but that gold is no longer ours. Whether it was stolen, tricked out of our hands, or bargained away, the gold is gone. And now the gold is no longer what they want. It is not enough. After centuries of taking everything from us, they now reach for the one thing left: our minds, our life force. Yesterday they were colonizers, empire builders, and corporate barons. Today they wear logos, run tech platforms, control financial networks, and manipulate algorithms. They have shifted from owning our labor to harvesting our attention and vitality. It is not that they don't want the gold, they already have it. We are already owned materially. We live paycheck to paycheck. Entire nations dance to their tune. But now, they want more. They want to inhabit us, live through us, feed on the one resource they cannot dig from the earth: our energy, our life force. This is the mining of our age. Not gold mining, energy mining. Not to nourish, but to activate us by remote. Every scroll, every click, every share, a little more of us slips away. Focus fragments as we lose the ability to hold even a single thread of thought. Our presence weakens when we stop truly being where our bodies are and start living inside curated fantasies. Our energy is siphoned, not all at once, but drip by drip, until we cannot even remember where it went. We tell ourselves it's harmless. We call it entertainment, but it isn't. We are handing away the one thing they cannot physically steal: our attention. Their empire isn't built on bricks anymore. It is built on data, our attention. It is built on the quiet surrender of billions. What makes this even more dangerous is how easily we help it spread. We press share without a thought. We pass on other people's junk as if it were medicine. Jokes, outrage, gossip, shock. We call it staying connected. But really, we are just recycling noise. And this isn't just noise. It is mental pollution. A swarm of viruses taking root in the mind. And once you cannot hear your own thoughts, you are no longer truly free. We let it slide when it was background static, annoying, distracting. Like a neighbor blasting music you would never choose. But now it is louder. The crescendo is everywhere. And what we didn't confront now owns the room. And what about our children? The ones who carry our blood, the ones meant to inherit the world we have borrowed. We don't hand them toys anymore. We hand them Trojan horses wrapped in shiny plastic and Wi-Fi. We sacrifice them to the fire of our enemy's greed, because it is easier to scroll than to stand guard. They don't need to be chained like our forefathers. We are training them ourselves, training them to wear the chains like jewelry, to call their shackles freedom, to believe their bondage is a choice. And all the while, the fire of greed grows stronger, abusing their innocence while we, the adults, scroll. These are not just children. They are our future, our legacy, our living prayers. We are the ones placing the chains on their minds, teaching them to call their cage home. If we don't open our eyes now, they will grow up never knowing they were free. This is more than distraction. This is the soft architecture of spiritual war. A world that mocks pain cannot heal it. A people who consume cruelty like candy will one day forget what tenderness feels like. But we are not too far gone. Not while we can still name what is happening. Not while some still feel the sting. Not while some still remember that the soul was never meant to feast on the suffering of others. The moment cruelty becomes content, when gossip becomes entertainment, when violence becomes just another video, the virus doesn't have to fight anymore. It lives in us. When entire channels profit from tearing people down, when we mock, dissect, insult, and scroll past pain without blinking, that is not a glitch. That is the system working exactly as designed. Centuries ago, they broke the warrior's mind with chains. Today, they numb it with convenience. And just like then, they didn't conquer alone. They used traitors from within the ranks, some out of fear, some out of greed. And today, it is us. We are the traitors. Not because we carry whips or chains, but because we hand over the Trojan horse ourselves. Because we are too busy, too numb, or too distracted to fight. We are traitors with our ignorance, our lack of will, our hunger for easy babysitters. We hand our children the glowing leash and call it love. And they learn obedience not to wisdom or elders, but to the algorithm, to the feed that never sleeps, to the faceless voices that reward compliance with dopamine hits and digital applause. They learn to respond to pings instead of intuition, to trends instead of truth, to commands they cannot even see. And this didn't happen overnight. It was a gentle slide. One generation saying, just a little screen time. The next calling it normal. And the next not even remembering there was another way. And so obedience becomes instinct, not to parents, not obedience to God, not even obedience to self. but to systems designed to keep them still while calling it choice. Our children no longer need to be conquered. They are being conditioned, not by foreign armies. They are being conditioned by us, by the silence, the convenience, the endless distractions. They are being conditioned by a world that calls surrender normal. We didn't fight it. We fed it. We sacrificed our children to the fire of our enemy's greed, all because we were too tired, too distracted, too addicted to resist. These addictions aren't hidden. They are the same ones choking us now. The endless scrolling, the mindless watching, the false sense of connection. And if we, the ones who know better, are struggling to break free, what chance do our children have? They who are being shaped by the system from the womb and handed over by those of us already on our way to the tomb. Some of us in the first wave still vaguely remember silence. You know, the silence of the world before the constant hum of notifications, before we had to fight for a moment of real peace, real stillness, when the only voice in our heads was our own and those we loved. Can we really remember when quiet wasn't something to escape from, but something to look forward to? Blessed stillness, a silence that held us, not threatened us. Now that memory flickers. We resist, but it gets fainter. We question, and then we doubt ourselves. We start to think we are the weak ones, instead of realizing we are being bombarded. Not with bombs that shatter walls, but with weapons that breach the mind. Wrapped in companionship, sold as connection, delivered in our hands. And in that soft handover, something precious slipped away. Do we even remember what it feels like to just be? To sit without reaching for something glowing? Most of us don't. And for our children, it is worse. Disconnection feels uncomfortable. It feels impossible. The screen has become their air. It is not a choice anymore. It is an inhale, a reflex. And those born into the glow, born into distraction, dressed up to look like connection, will call the cage home. They won't question it. They won't even see it. Just like the later generations of the enslaved, born into chains, they never knew to resist. They will inherit obedience disguised as choice. The blueprint was drawn on black bodies, indigenous nations, and every people the empires called less than. They perfected their tools on the oppressed, then turned them on to the world. The test sites became the template. The template became the system. First, they conquered by color and class. Now they have widened the net. They fold the lesser into their ranks, those outside their golden 1%, using them as both fuel and shield. They promise them a nice piece of the throne, but never the crown. A nicer cage, a shinier chain, the illusion of status, if they just obey. A car, a title, a mortgage they'll die paying, a flag to wave, a team to defend, a feed that makes them feel important even when they own nothing. They hand out tokens of power like breadcrumbs, but keep the feast for themselves. They don't need to rule everyone. They just need enough of us to believe we are almost in. And so, the same machine rolls on. Old masters in new skins, trying to build their empires on our backs while mistaking gold for godhood. This isn't just history repeating itself. This is history evolving its weaponry. Because the battlefield isn't out there. It is the human mind. And once a culture is desensitized, when pain becomes entertainment, when violence becomes background noise, when lies are dressed up as different perspectives, something dangerous happens. Truth starts to sound like extremism. When people have grown numb, anything that feels real, raw, or honest seems too much, too harsh, too loud, too angry. But it is not extreme. It is just that the light burns when you have been sitting in the dark too long. Truth cuts deep when you have built your safety out of lies. The rawness isn't violence. It is the anesthesia wearing off. For some, that burn makes them run. They throw stones at the messenger. They call the mirror the enemy because it dares to reflect what they do not want to see. But if your chest tightens, if your breath shortens, if something inside wants to look away, that is not weakness. That is the part of you that still remembers you were born awake. That is your soul trying to claw its way out of the fog. Many turn away at this point, not because they cannot see, but because seeing demands they do something. But some pause, and in that pause, a war is won. Because the moment you stop flinching, the truth isn't on attack anymore. It is a weapon you can pick up. And this isn't just happening to other people. It is happening to us. It is happening to me. It is happening to my grandson. It is happening to yours, to your children, and our children's children. We cannot say we were not warned. We are the ones holding the door open. Mark my words. If we keep calling it just the way the world is now, we are signing our names to our own erasure. Dozing off on our watch, letting the thief walk right through the door, scrolling while the lights go out. But hear this well, there is still a crack in the wall. A people who can still feel are not lost. A people who can still name what is wrong are not conquered. There are still those who pause when everyone else scrolls. There are still those who refuse to call poison entertainment. And that pause, that refusal, is the fracture where light breaks in. This is the line. These are our choices. To keep nodding off or to wake up. To inherit a cage or rebuild a gate. To look away or to stand watch. History will not ask what we scrolled past. It will ask what we stood for.